This subject is a subject that I've been putting off for some time. I'm talking about the shunning of Jehovah's Witnesses. Basically because what hasn't been said about it. But after watching somebody's video this week, it kind of dawned on me the lack of family memories amongst Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, I didn't have a great childhood growing up. Others have had a lot worse, but I did not have a happy childhood. I was, however, very close with my grandparents. For some reason, I was their favorite. And they were around for as long as I can remember, for obvious reasons. They were there before I was born. Thing is, when you're a kid, let's face it, you take for granted that you're going to be a kid forever. Years seem to go forever, but from a grown-up's point of view, childhood is relatively short. You just don't see it until you get a few decades behind you. But I have very fond memories of my grandparents. They were both characters. My grandfather was one of the funniest people I ever met. He was also very accident-prone. He'd been hit by a car twice. He was notorious for falling off the roof. He was struck by lightning twice. He got his hand mangled in a conveyor belt. And when he would talk to you about his accidents, this was anywhere where the subject would come up about his accidents, it was never the poor me thing, but the way he would describe it, you couldn't help but laugh. He was one of the funniest people I ever met. He smoked a pipe. And I remember being out in field service one time, and we were just talking, and the subject came up, and I mentioned that I found the smell of my grandfather's pipe tobacco was very soothing. The browbeating I got for saying that, I'm like, what? I realized conversation out in field service was extremely limited. Well, I don't think a week went by that I did not see my grandparents. This was right up until adulthood, sometimes twice a week. And before you would leave, my grandmother was funny for this, she would already be setting up the next time you were coming over. And it was kind of like, were our visits all she had to look forward to? Maybe it was. She had talked my grandfather into quitting smoking one time. And he agreed to say, okay, I'll quit smoking. Down in the basement, my grandmother was a big woman, so she could not climb stairs, so she never went down the basement. My grandfather used to hide a bottle and a pipe down there. There was just one time he's down there smoking away. He came upstairs. He forgot to take the pipe out of his mouth. And I'm just like shaking my head, but it was hysterical. Oh, you started smoking again? He said, oh no, I just found this down the basement. You couldn't help but laugh. But thinking about it, these are just memories that I could not take away from myself, first of all, but also take away from my grandparents. I did not have a good relationship with my father. We've discussed it since then, but I asked my father one time, how come grandparents and parents are so different? And my father actually answered that. He says, well, you know, parents, it's their first time around. They make mistakes. They've got all the responsibility, and they have little time to enjoy the kids. The funny thing is, I see my father today with the grandkids, and he is so different. You can look at his eyes. And now I'm understanding what he was saying many years ago. And I'm looking at him and thinking, this is not the guy I grew up with. But now he can enjoy the kids because the responsibility is over. And as you get older, you actually have less and less and less to look forward to. You focus on smaller things. My grandparents, yeah, that's what they look forward to. People coming to visit them. That's what anybody looks forward to. I started thinking about this because I didn't speak to too many Jehovah's Witnesses on a personal level too often, but I had gotten pretty tight with several elders, and on 2 occasions, 2 of them had mentioned that they had offspring that had been disfellowshipped. And they mentioned at separate times how they were missing their grandkids growing up. And one of them actually broke down in the middle of the conversation. And he says afterwards, but it's a loving arrangement from Jehovah. I don't think he was trying to convince me of that, but he was trying to convince himself of this. And I really wanted to slap him in the head and say, wake up, it's not a loving arrangement. I was only months away from leaving the organization at this time, and I just wanted to tell him so badly. It is a control mechanism. But Jehovah's Witnesses, if your disfellowship family members are reaching out, the blood guilt is on you. Remember what happened in Kego Harbor about 2 years ago? It's on you. If they're reaching out to you and you are closing the door on them, then you are blood guilty. There's an old cliche, people aren't going to be around forever. And that's something I've always remembered. And for anybody who has children that are no longer part of the organization, not only are you missing out on their lives, but if they have offspring, you are missing out on the grandkids. As we all know, childhoods are short. You don't see a kid for a year, and it's amazing how fast they grow. And in a short span of time, you are missing so many valuable family memories. And this is something that I thought was lacking when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. When somebody was talking about family memories, it all had to do with this one was baptized at this convention. This one did a public talk here. It always included the corporation. Never just families at home. And I thought that was rather cold. And this is what the indoctrination that this corporation does to Jehovah's Witnesses. Just because somebody does not want to be part of this organization, you shun them. And basically, you won't talk to them unless they come back, which is emotional blackmail. So would you rather have them back in the organization under those false pretenses that they really don't want to be there? Or would you want them there because they did want to be there? But if they don't want to be there, it's bullshit. And the thing is, not only are you robbing them of family memories, you're robbing yourselves of so many valuable family memories. You're allowing a corporation, you're allowing this organization to control you with the halls is one thing, but to come into your very household and tell you how to live your life, tell you what you can and cannot do in your own house, tell you which family members you can speak to, which one you can't. That is emotional blackmail, and none of you seem to have the balls to be able to stand up and just say no. JWs, give it a thought. If you've got a family member reaching out, the corporation, you can keep out of it. They do not own you. They only have the control over you that you allow them to have. And if you're disfellowshipped because you'd rather talk to a family member, that's not sinning against God. That's going up against corporate policy, which is BS. Anyways, guys, that's just something I wanted to touch on because the whole subject of shunning, now I don't have any family in, so shunning me isn't effective. But I do talk to a lot of people that do have family in, and I've talked to a lot of JWs when I was in that were missing so many family memories. Anyways, guys, that's all I got today. Feel free to leave your comments below, and I will talk to you soon.